It's day 15 of a year facing fear. And I have to be honest with you, I feel as though ever since on day 10, I made a decision to start setting boundaries and start expressing my truth and saying no in all areas of my life. I feel as though it's coming back to kick me in the butt. Have you found that? I don't know which fears you're facing along with me, if there's anything that you've made a decision to actually try and change or try and face or try and conquer. But I know for me, and I don't know if you found this, that once I actually set a decision that I'm going to speak my truth, I need to honor the little me. I can't abandon her anymore. I need to have difficult conversations. I need to say no. I need to put down boundaries and actually hold firm to those boundaries. Then all of a sudden, it's as though wherever I look, there are all these difficult conversations that I need to have, and messages that are coming up, and invitations, I guess. Not always the best kind of invitations. Nobody wants to have a conversation like that. But invitations that are coming up where I've had to, I guess, make a choice. Am I doing this? Am I just saying I'm doing this, or am I doing this? Am I actually going to show up even when it's really hard and when I feel really confronted and when really every single part of my body just wants to backpedal and say, oh, no, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah, of course, I didn't mean it like that. It's been hard. But I've held firm. And the pushback, this is the thing, isn't it? And I feel as though, when we talked about this in, I think, day 10, in terms of not putting down boundaries, not saying no, and people pleasing is all part of that fawn response. And so for a lot of people, myself included, who have a trauma background, but not just people with a trauma background, that fawn response can end up being a bit of our go-to, because as a child, in whatever situation we found ourselves in, we found that we had to please and appease in order to keep the peace, in order to have and establish this sense of safety. And for me, I've lived my whole life like that, trying to mold myself into whatever I think will be accepted, whatever I think people want. Not saying what I want, not doing what I want. I've been in relationships where literally I have abandoned myself and done everything that person wanted. Not because it was their fault, because I didn't express myself. And right from the start, I said, I'll do that. Oh no, let me. So I set myself up in this situation I didn't friggin' want. I set myself up in a situation that was going to be detrimental to my mental health, my emotional health, my well-being, my financial health. But I did that. Because I put my needs, threw them off to the side. Yeah, she'll be right, don't worry about her. And I gave everything I had to give on a platter. And then when what I need, which often I didn't communicate, wasn't reciprocated, wasn't given to me in past relationships. But when that wasn't given to me, then I started to feel irritated, resentful, because I had these unvoiced expectations, but I had set up this situation in which my needs were never going to get met because I hadn't been honest. I had given more than I had to give. And so in the past few days, I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but that's been a really big one for me. So over the past few days where I've been setting boundaries, I've been saying no, I've been expressing my truth, even when, God help me, I feel as though it's going to kill me. And I have felt so bad, so guilty, the guilt. Wow, the guilt. I have felt so guilty for expressing my truth, as if I'm a bad person. And the truth is, you will find if you start doing this with me, there's pushback. often the people in your lives who you've established relationships and friendships or parental relationships, sibling relationships with your children, whoever it is, work colleagues, where you have showed up and you've said yes, been the yes person, I'll do that, no problem. I'm good. And deep down you're like, oh. They don't like it when you push back. But of course they don't, because all of a sudden you're different. And yes, you are. But you're not. You're being you. It's just that all the other times, maybe your whole life before that, you were not being true to you. You were putting other people before you to be accepted, to not be rejected, to feel safe. And what's interesting is once I start actually really focusing and taking note and doing this, what happens? Don't you love our reticular activating system, the RAS? Most of you have probably heard about this. If you haven't, I'll explain it in basic terms. So, we are bombarded with information from everywhere. Sight, sound, smells, visual stimulus, everything. Way too much stimulus for our brain to actually cope with. So we have what's called a reticular activating system, an RAS. And essentially what it does is it takes a shitload of information and narrows it down into something that we can handle. For some of us who have ADHD, there's still the shitload of information. And like when I was studying at university, or when I'm studying or doing anything, and they say pick out the relevant information, I'm like, it's all relevant. I'm highlighting everything. And seeing everything, and perhaps that's one of the reasons I got into nonverbal communication and the study of it, was because my brain doesn't really filter out information very well. And so I see all the signals, and way too much, I'd get overwhelmed. But I digress. So reticular activating system basically filters that information down into something that's a bit more manageable for most of us. However, what we see is what we focus on, and what we focus on becomes our reality. So and let me give you an example of this. Just imagine that you're going to buy a car. Let's just say you want to have a steel blue, I don't know what type of car, what of those, what's it called, those beautiful blue, I don't even know how to describe the color. And let's just say you want a new car, Tesla, whatever. I would love to have a Tesla. I can't afford a Tesla, but let's just say you've decided you want to have one of these beautiful steel grey blue Teslas. And then all of a sudden, wherever you look, what do you see? Teslas. And not just Teslas, you see the steel grey Teslas. Or if all of a sudden you're pregnant, all of a sudden, when I was pregnant with Aiden, all of a sudden, all I saw was pregnant women. And before that, I had, it wasn't on my radar. Until we see what we focus on, and what we focus on becomes our reality. If our internal dialogue and our mindset and our beliefs about ourselves is, I'm going to fail, what's wrong with me, then what we're going to see, thank you, brain, for filtering down in the information, is all of the examples about how we're going to fail and everything that's wrong with us. And likewise, if we say to ourselves, I've got this, what opportunities can I see? I'm doing it, I've got this, yes. And we start believing in ourselves and believing in our ability to actually freaking just show up. What we see is examples and opportunities for connection, for growth. And that then reiterates this mindset and this feeling and this confidence. So what we see affects what we focus on affects what we see becomes our reality. So for me, in the last few days, when I've been focusing on boundaries, then all of a sudden it's been everywhere, and that's all I've seen. And then also my inbox, everywhere, just everywhere. And it's been really, really confronting for me. Like really, really, to the point where I was thinking, what the friggin' hell am I doing? For the rest of my life, did I not actually have any of these boundaries in place? Nope, I did not. And so the thing that's really come up is that for me is the pushback. People don't always like it when you set boundaries, when you say no, People can get defensive. They can start pointing the finger at you. Well, you're this and you're that, but, because, rather than actually listening to your truth and accepting that this is just how you feel. This is just what you need for you. This is just what I need for me to keep that little me, that little Katia inside of me, that little 5-7-year-old me who feels so wounded and hurt and not looked after, to keep her safe and to reparent her. That's what I need for me, is just to express this. It's hard when you express what you need, or you express how something has made you feel, and then you get pushback, and then it's like, well, no, this is the way that it is, or, well, you're just this. And I know that I'm going to have this in a lot of areas in my life, particularly with my dad. Perhaps one of the reasons why, boundaries has been so difficult for me is with my dad, boundaries, there are no boundaries. If I set a boundary, it's squish. Even when we're just actually expressing how we feel. But I want to remind you that boundaries aren't about other people. It doesn't matter. I know it hurts when they push back. I know it hurts when they won't listen. And even though you're expressing your truth and you're vulnerable and it is friggin' scary, but they're still pushing back. But that's their stuff. And they might call you names, and they might nitpick, and they might put you down, and they might criticize you, and they might say things that will make you doubt yourself as a person and start to question. And you may feel as though you just want to backpedal and get me out of here. And I know, I hear you, I understand. That's how I've been feeling. But this is about you, how they react to you saying your truth. And of course, we're saying it in a really kind way and not saying you. It's just, this is how I feel. I feel, it's not you do this, it's I feel. When I feel this. So we're not pointing the finger at other people, we're just expressing our own truth. And if they react in a way that points their finger at us, criticizes us, deflects, gets angry, walks out, decides they don't want to have a relationship with us, then that hurts. But it's still your truth. So I invite you to hold firm and not backpedal and not apologize when you haven't actually done anything wrong. I spent a lot of time apologizing through my life, always, sorry. And at the beginning of this year, I started to not apologize when I hadn't done something wrong. And then the feedback I would get in one of my relationships was, well, you never apologize. And the truth is, anyone who knows me will say, I apologize. Even my kids, you apologize all the time, stop apologizing, because it's coming from that fawning response. But the second you stop doing that, then all of a sudden it will be like, well, you never apologize, because you're doing something different. And to the people in your lives, that change is stressful. Even if it's good change is stressful. Anything that changes the dynamic of a relationship is stressful for people. And so if there's pushback, that's okay. These things take time. And I'm going to be brave even when I don't feel like it, and I invite you to do the same. It's not an easy one, is it? But we're here, we're showing up. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been such an amazing pleasure to get to know you and to start interacting with you and to read your messages and your comments and to connect with you in the Facebook group, A Year Facing Fear, for those of you who haven't joined. And until next time, I just want to remind you that I see you, I believe in you, and you have absolutely got this.